Do we have the capacity in this group to talk about what it means to go beyond industrial creativity, industrial innovation as an approach to wealth creation? We create wealth on the basis of the last century and a half using industrial methods. Do we think we will continue to use industrial methods, industrial innovation, industrial schooling, industrial organization to create wealth in the 21st century?
Right. I think that, I remember, I'm sure it was David who told me, that when the UK government, many years ago, pushed computers into schools, it actually was the Treasury that were organising it simply to create generations that would be computer literate, right? It wasn't actually economic. It wasn't actually to improve schooling. It was they had made the decision that in the future digital literacy was going to be important throughout the economy, and they had to start somewhere. So they started, it would be 10 years ago, wouldn't it be, David, right? They started 10 years ago really making schools, putting computers into schools. I think there is a danger there. What we must be careful is not to push out other skills. I really worry for the time when we can all use computers, but we've forgotten how to write.
The first experiment in getting computers into schools was in Ireland in 1972. An education minister named Donna O'Malley, who unfortunately died quite young, and also I think lost his job as a result of being accused by the Treasury then of wasting money. But actually there is a direct route between the Irish initiative in 72 and the fact that, for example, in their embryonic days, Silicon Valley hired a vastly disproportionate number of Irish graduates who then returned back and created the rather short-lived economic miracle.
We don't give teachers and children white spaces. We still have teachers spending all their time in the classroom with students, leading from the front, leading from the sides, leading groups. We don't say, like in some countries, where you have a group project to do, go away and do. If you want any help, there are people around to help you. They might be other students, they might be other teachers, there might be somebody in another class, there might be somebody online.
That actually, initially, the technology is supposed to be a tool, but now it's leading us, it's no longer sort of a tool that we use, to learn. I think I would agree that education is about learning, and students should learn how to learn. And why we have to pay attention to the digital divide, but I think I'm trying to narrow the gap, but I would not like it to make it a sort of human right, because in Europe maybe everyone have access, to the technology, but in other parts of the world, like India or China or other parts, the technology is not that strong.
I think it was Tony that said something along the lines of he doesn't want future generations of young people who can only write with a computer. I mean, if we think about what the meaning of literacy is, and particularly in terms of digital literacy, if literacy is reading and writing, that's fine, but it begs the question, reading and writing what? It begs the question of what are we creating when we are, in inverted commas, writing. And in writing, every teacher who wants a child to be literate will want that child to continue to be able to write in the sense that writing has always meant. Writing long pieces, writing novels, writing stories, writing journalism, whatever. That will never be unimportant. But I think we're now in an age where that activity of creating text, whatever that means, text now means a lot more than simply words.
And much of what we're talking about, I think, comes from a particular Western cultural background, and we must make absolutely sure that we never lose the diversity of knowledges that exist in the world. And in a sense, the sister's point about India and Asia and traditional learning systems, I think there is a huge world out there for us to explore the interactivity of these technologies with that. But I also think the point about knowledge and information has perhaps not sufficiently been explored, in the sense that much of this technology is actually about information transfer. It's not about knowledge transfer, because knowledge is that essential interaction that we're all striving for.
You know, I think it's very easy for all of us to bash teachers and to say that the profession are drenched in mediocrity, and I don't think that we're far off in that. But my experience with teachers is that most of them, not all of them, most of them want to be excellent, but they don't know how, and they're
That's exactly right.
They're drenched in the inability to do those things that those excellent teachers do.
Digital skills development are essential for education. But education is already a universal human right. Article 26, everyone has the right to education. And the point I will come on to, education shall be free.
The right to mobility is a generic right. The right to learning is a generic right. The right to a specific type of knowledge seems to me to be something that's a moving target and will change over time, as it should, as has been pointed out. The question of how to change within the school system, the 60 million classrooms, may not be an inside-out problem, Jim. Meaning it's much, much more difficult to convince people about mobility by saying everybody should have the right to move around when they're not moving around.
So our whole definitions of digital literacy really need to be defined and not set in stone. I think that's the absolute thing here. So it's whether it's who does it, whether it's a government or whether it's educational authorities or whether it's people doing it through grassroots, which is often how it does happen, because certainly any training course I've been on to try and teach them to use a computer would be a complete waste of time. I think I remember 3 things because those are the next 3 things I use. So it's got to be ongoing, it's got to be continuous, and it's got to be absolutely relevant to what you need in order to be able to use technology in a way that is going to further your learning, further your understanding, allow you to collaborate and communicate in new ways.
I think the question of this inaugural meeting is that's lingering for me is what direction we will take together as a group, and what are the types of directions that we want to kind of rally together our energy for. So whether that be ideas we're just trying to spread, or recommendations for policy changes that we want to influence. I mean, the point about digital literacy as a human right, I mean, my opinion on that is more like, is this an idea that we want to promote, rather whether or not we're going to be able to hold governments accountable. The kind of work we've done on that is just trying to get citizens to mobilize and express what's important. I don't know, is that the core idea? I mean, I think for me the question is, what are the core ideas that we as a group want to get behind to push forward? And I'm not sure if we came up collectively as a group with what are those 1 or 2 big things that we want to rally behind. But I think the debate is interesting and rich, and I think that as a way forward, I think the direction we should go is to really figure out what the big ideas are that we want to push forward as a group.
This debate is only one tiny part of something that should be much bigger. And it's been reflected, I think, in some of the comments that have been made just over the last couple of minutes, that we need to find the mechanisms, that the mechanisms are there. We need to use the mechanisms to make sure that this discussion lives a life beyond the 2 or 3 hours that we're spending together here.
Thank you, Ballant, for your presentation, for your support for that. Thank you, David and Cynthia, for having made the proposal. And thank you, everybody, for all the contributions to what I think has been an exciting debate. It is a first, and in a sense, a trial run of how this works and how we can do it. My own opinion, having sought to chair in a certain sort of a way, is that I think it's been tremendous, and but thanks in every part to the way that people have contributed.